Last fall we went apple picking, made a big batch of applesauce and canned it for the winter. But instead of throwing away the seeds, we did something we weren't sure would even work. We cold stratified them in our refrigerator and tried to grow our own apple trees from scratch. 72 of them. So, did it actually work? Hi and welcome back to Whitetail Acres Farm. Spring has finally arrived here on the property, and that means it's time to get out into the orchard and see what's woken up, what needs attention, and what might need to be replaced. We've got some weeding, fertilizing, and pruning ahead of us, and then we'll get back to those apple seedlings because that story definitely has a happy ending. Our first stop is just doing a full walkthrough of the orchard to assess what we're working with this spring. This is always one of my favorite moments of the year. There's something really satisfying about seeing trees you planted start to wake back up after a long winter. As we walk through, we're looking for a few key things. First, are there any trees that just didn't make it through? Sometimes a harsh winter will take one, especially if it encountered deer damage like some of ours did last year. And it's better to know now so we can replace it and put a new one in the ground while the season's still early. Second, we're looking at the overall shape and structure of each tree, which is going to guide us on how to prune. All in all, most of what we got out here looks like it's ready to have a really productive season. The next thing on our list is getting the weeds cleared out from around the base of each tree. It might not look like much right now, but weeds compete directly with your trees for water and nutrients, especially early in the season when the trees are putting energy into new growth. We try to keep a clear ring around the base of each tree using weed barrier and wood chips. That's the area directly underneath the furthest reach of the branches. That's roughly where the root system of the tree is feeding to, so keeping the zone weed-free makes a real difference. It's one of those jobs that doesn't feel glamorous, but it's laying the groundwork for everything that comes after. Once we had the weeds cleared out, we moved on to fertilizing. We use an organic fertilizer out here. It's something we really are committed to on this farm. We want to be building the soil health long term, not just pushing quick growth with synthetic inputs. For fruit trees, spring is the most important time to fertilize. The trees are coming out of dormancy and they're hungry. Giving them a good balanced feed right now supports root development, leaf out, and ultimately the quality of the fruit later in the season. We like the Espoma brand. We usually use their tree tone for fruit and nut trees, but we ran out of that and I had the plant tone for general gardening available, so that's what I used today. We spread it out under each tree and let the rain and the soil microbes do the rest of the work from here. Now that this section of the orchard is done weeding and is already starting to look so much better, we're going to go through each tree and take a look to see if there's any branches that need to get removed, any suckers that need to get removed. We're going to look for dead branches, anything that's not blooming or showing signs of life, because pretty much everything is waking up now. We're already well into the spring. So if I see any branches with no signs at all, those will get lopped off. And then we'll see how we are from there. But I already did some pruning just about a month or so ago. I don't think we're going to have to do a ton of pruning. If anything, it'll just be taking care of some suckers that started growing. But we'll see what we end up finding when we get out there. Now, the part of the orchard care that makes the biggest long-term difference, pruning. And I know it can feel a little intimidating, especially when you're standing in front of a tree with a pair of loppers wondering what to cut. But once you understand what you're looking for, it starts to make a whole lot of sense. The goal with pruning is really about two things: airflow and light. You want sunlight to reach as much of the tree's interior as possible, and you want air to be able to move through freely. That helps reduce disease pressure and makes for healthier fruit. For our apple trees, we're following the central leader method. We want one strong central trunk going straight up with lateral branches coming off. Anything that's crossing, rubbing, or growing back toward the center of the tree is what we're taking out. I already did most of this cleanup about a month ago, so today I'm looking for any new growth that might be forming and things that need to be removed. It takes a little time to work through each tree properly, but the difference it makes to the canopy shape and the harvest down the road is absolutely worth it. All right, let's get back to those apple seeds because this is one of my favorite projects we have going right now. So here's how it all started. This past fall we went apple picking, and after we made our applesauce and got it all canned up for the winter, we had a big pile of apple seeds left over. Now, most people would just toss them, but we thought, why not try to grow our own trees? The thing about apple seeds is that they won't germinate unless they go through a cold period first. It's called cold stratification. It mimics what would naturally happen if the seed fell to the ground in autumn and spent the winter in the cold soil. Without that cold period, the seeds stay dormant and never sprout. So what we did was wrap the seeds in a damp paper towel, seal them in a Ziploc bag, and put them in the back of our refrigerator. And then we waited for several months. They just sat there in the cold. We honestly weren't sure how many would actually germinate. And then the results came in. Nearly all of them sprouted. We ended up with about 72 viable seedlings, and we got them potted up with soil and set them on our seed growing station under the grow lights. They've been growing really well, but here's where we are right now. Several of them have gotten so big that they're outgrowing their starting pots, and they need to be moved up into something larger so the roots have more room and can keep growing. Transplanting seedlings always gives me a little thrill. It means things are growing faster than expected, which is a really good problem to have. The root system on these little trees is already impressive. When I pop it out of the pot, you can see that the roots are already starting to circle. That's your signal that it's time to move up. Leaving them root bound for too long will actually stunt their growth, so we don't want to wait on this. We're moving them into about 4 or 5 inch pots with fresh potting soil, making sure the root systems have plenty of room to spread out. We'll keep them on the growing station for a little while longer until the weather is consistently warm enough and they're strong enough to handle the outdoor conditions. The long-term goal for these seedlings is to eventually transplant them outside, both into the orchard itself and around the property. It's going to take a few years for them to get to a size where they're going to actually be really established, but knowing that these trees started from seeds we saved ourselves, that's something really special. So as I'm putting the painter's tape on here, making sure that I'm not putting it around too tight because I still want some wiggle room so these guys can still grow. But I'm just putting enough on there that it can give it some support. So the whole point of using the painter's tape and the skewers is just to show you that you don't need to go out and buy special tools or anything to be able to grow food yourself free at home. So the seeds that we used for these apple trees were actually seeds that we got from apples that we picked when we went apple picking, and then we have a whole video where we cold stratified them and showed you that whole process. But we got basically free seeds and then just cold stratified them. Once they sprouted, put them in soil on the growing station, and now look at this. All in all, it was a productive and successful day out here on the orchard, Getting the weeding, the fertilizing, and the pruning done, it feels great. And seeing these apple seedlings thriving after starting from almost nothing is just really rewarding. If you've ever tried growing fruit trees from seed, or if you've done cold stratification before, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Did it work for you? What variety did you start with? Did you get any fruit from it yet, and how was it? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more orchard adventures along with all of our other farm activities. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one.